My purpose today is really to communicate to you my concern about the kind of Ayurveda we are seeking to project internationally. There's been some comments here about language, translation, cultural difference, etc., etc. We learned the Western system of medicine through a foreign language, right? We made that leap of both faith and capability. English is not my mother tongue. It's a very limited language. It has serious limitations not only to incorporate complex concepts, but even on Sanskrit, even what Hindi or Punjabi or my mother tongue tries to communicate. So we will call upon, I'm just making this one point before I come to mine, we'll call upon our friends outside India, not just our Western friends, to make a leap of faith, make that effort. Because if they do understand the essence of Ayurveda, they have to bridge this gap. It's a slow process, it's a very demanding task. We don't do it out of a sense of ego that it belongs to us and we better learn it our way, no. But you have to accept that we cannot take Ayurveda and reduce it to something which may be more acceptable to them. We cannot make, to use a metaphor, gourmet cooking into fast food. Our Chinese friends, I think, have made the mistake of doing that, and long term, I think they'll have difficulties. That is not our approach. I just want to begin by saying that we cannot devalue Ayurveda so that it becomes more easily digestible in a different culture. But we understand that Ayurveda has elements in it which must be communicated in a way which are different because they are different knowledge systems. With this opening remark, let me get down to saying what I actually intended to say. I've been greatly honored by this invitation. I'm in a manner of speaking to only outsider who've been invited to this Insight Ayurveda, and I consider it a great privilege. I've been mandated to consider the steps that can be taken to further the goals of dissemination and global recognition of Ayurveda. The presence of a number of distinguished representatives from foreign countries at this assembly is a measure of the growing awareness and interest in Ayurveda as an ancient Indian system of holistic medicine that has contemporary relevance. I've also chosen not to make a PowerPoint presentation because I belong to the old generation and I don't want to distract you. You can't read and listen effectively at the same time. So I would just request you to listen to me, and maybe at some point in the future I'll leave a text there, then if you missed something you can actually read it. Ours is a system that has been validated over centuries based on its practice and the wide acceptance of its efficacy and safety by millions of people who have benefited from its proficiency and its cures in India, in South Asia, in Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. It is a comprehensive medical system that reflects the culture and traditions of India, but it has universal application in that it addresses the human condition in all its aspects. From a macro and multilateral perspective, it is clear that the world is groping to find viable and affordable systems of medicine and practice that meet the public health needs of both developing and developed countries. Systems that emphasize prevention, systems that are practical and can be delivered with ease by professionals through the direct involvement of the communities they are designed to serve. Systems that can take an integrated view of the human condition and focus as much on the value systems and life patterns as they do on treating disease. The World Health Organization has come to an increasing understanding and appreciated the need for such systems and is becoming more responsive and open to encouraging traditional systems of medicine. Krishna Kumarji from EVP was a pioneer in bringing Ayurveda to the attention of WHO many years ago and long before government agencies took up this cause. The Department of Ayush and the Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, where I had the honor to serve, has since then played an important role in sensitizing WHO to the efficacy of Ayurveda and has deputed Indian medical experts to encourage a better and more informed understanding of traditional systems of medicine. The current Director General of WHO, Dr. Margaret Chan, who is a Chinese medical doctor from Hong Kong, recognizes the need for WHO's increased support for traditional medicine. There is another important but often unrecognized dimension to traditional medicine, and that is the dimension of human rights. There is an increasing demand by people in several countries, particularly among women and young persons, to have the option of seeking alternative systems of healing and medication that are organic and more in harmony with nature. They demand this as a fundamental human right, the right to choose the system of healing and treatment most suited to their own value systems and lifestyles. They do not wish to be confined to systems that are imposed upon them either by the state or by organized insurance and pharmaceutical business interests. They want to mix and match. They want a choice and are rapidly moving to customized medicine. There has been a dramatic surge in the popularity of traditional medicine over the last 30 years. For instance, 70% of the population in Canada and 80% in Germany have used in their lifetime traditional medicine in one form or the other. Now, gathering here this morning needs no convincing that there is clearly a growing interest in Ayurveda globally. It is important, however, to emphasize that Ayurveda must be disseminated as a fully evolved medical science which must be recognized in all its dimensions. It must not be seen as merely preventive medicine or designed to primarily address functional disorders or chronic ailments. It must also not be reduced to mere wellness treatments confined to spas and wellness centers. We need to be careful about this because this is a growing trend in many parts of the world, including, unfortunately, in India. At the same time, traditional systems of medicine must be seen as complementing existing systems. Together and in harmony, they can benefit citizens and patients and provide affordable, economically viable options for public health planners at the national and international level. But for this, we need to address the basic difficult issues relating to recognition and validation of Ayurveda as a medical system in different parts of the world. The practice of Ayurveda must ensure safety, efficacy, and standardized quality. It's a separate and valid knowledge system, and we must find ways to communicate with other knowledge systems that are more widely known and recognized. Only then can we meet the objective of Ayurveda becoming an integral part of the respective domestic healthcare systems around the world. There is growing evidence to demand for Ayurveda growing evidence of demand for Ayurveda, but for this we have to accept that we have issues related to standardized education and certification for medical and paramedical professionals that will need to be addressed. The WHO has already published guidelines in this regard that are similar to the ones put out by Ayush. Similarly, scientific medical research, clinical practice, and licensing of pharmaceutical products would need attention. These issues are crucial and would greatly enhance the efficacy of Ayurveda and contribute to its growth and propagation globally. Let me now come to, there are issues relating to Ayurveda as India's soft power in a cultural dimension, but you already know that, so I won't reiterate that. Let me give you some specific suggestions. Dr. Ram Manohar asked me to propose some strategies. Let me propose some strategies and see how these proceed. I think India should begin consultations with the IPSA group. IPSA group is India, Brazil, South Africa, to ensure that WHO formally recognizes and addresses the validation of alternative systems of medicine through a process of multilateral engagement by inscribing this normative initiative on the agenda of the WHO and the World Health Assembly. Ayurveda is already formally recognized and its practice endorsed by a number of countries in the developing world. And therefore, my next suggestion is that this should constitute an important element in India's bilateral development strategy in the public health sector, in Africa, in the Gulf region, in Indochina, in Central Asia, in Eastern Europe, and in Latin America. A public-private partnership initiative in the form of a working group should be constituted to prepare a prioritized strategy paper and action plan to take this forward. A separate strategy would be required to address the question of formal recognition of Ayurveda in the USA and in Western Europe. For this, it may be advisable to focus on Canada for North America and Switzerland for West Europe as entry points, since the regulatory regimes in both these countries are more flexible and accommodating. Government and professional discussion should form part of the bilateral cooperation agenda. Now, to provide the required attention, and here I'm going to suggest as a practitioner a practical suggestion. It will be advisable to constitute an empowered committee with the requisite powers to take decisions relating to policy, funding, and implementation of action plans. The empowered committee would coordinate international cooperation policies and plans with central and state governments, with professional organizations, with industry, with private sector service providers, with regulatory agencies and international organizations. And this would relate to 1. Education, 2. Clinical services, 3. Research, 4. Pharmaceuticals, 5. Trade and commerce, and finally, advocacy. I would also suggest that an annual international dialogue, promotion and propagation of Ayurveda should be held with a specific agenda in the 6 areas identified above. Reference was made by 2 such meetings that I used to organize a few years ago. It's time then for us now to revive those again. Based on this, an international advisory group should be set up with Indian and international members to provide feedback and fresh ideas. And finally, and this is, I'm being ambitious, but as Henry Kissinger says, when concept encounters opportunity, policy is born. So I'm going to leave you with a concept so that if an opportunity comes our way, we can recognize it. And my suggestion is that 2 global hubs, one each in South and North India, should be set up in a public-private partnership format. These should be planned, designed, and built to international standards and provide state-of-the-art facilities as an integrated institution, preferably in one extended campus. It should be self-contained and it should have the following components. And I'm listing these out as illustrative, please free to add. It should be a deemed university with undergraduate and postgraduate colleges for medical doctors, pharmacists, nutritionists, and public health specialists. Special courses for foreign medical personnel and continuing medical education programs. Scholarships and exchange programs. Training facilities for therapists and nurses. Fully equipped hospital and clinical service. Research center for basic and applied research is a center of excellence. Conference and convention center for international conferences, seminars, workshops, and attached residential facilities. A pharmaceutical manufacturing facility. A herbal garden. A cultural center. A historical museum, and an audiovisual center. These global hubs will become standalone centers for international cooperation under their own management, but would be run under the broad policy direction of the Empowered Committee for International Cooperation. I am a practical person. I believe that all such gatherings should end up with something concrete coming out of it. In my profession, we usually say, I don't want to win the debate, I want to win the outcome. So I have another suggestion to make to Dr. Ram Manohar and to Insight Ayurveda, that these suggestions should be discussed and debated and then put forward as a set of specific recommendations by Insight Ayurveda 2013 for the consideration of central and state governments, professional bodies, industry, regulatory agencies, and international organizations, including the World Health Organization, so that a clearly defined roadmap is available for action and positive outcomes. And finally, I come to the end of the round, so apologies. Finally, may I end by saying that Ayurveda, while being uniquely Indian, is the common legacy of all humanity. It is a gift our sages and our rishis have given us. It is the science of life. It is not a medical system. It is the science of life, to be shared and celebrated by us collectively to ensure a more healthy and harmonious future for us all and for our children collectively. We trust that Insight Ayurveda 2013 will help this endeavor. Thank you very much for listening to us.